So I'm just going to reset this kernel, then we'll get started. Right, so that will run it. So it's here, top up at the bottom here, and what we're going to be doing today is just running through the tests. So I'll go to start of our tests here. What we're going to start with is the setup menu, which is this menu here. So it's a menu where you can choose the different options you want. So our first test is to make sure the arrows change conditions of the game. So that is, these arrows here should change what happens to the game. So the values connected to the arrows increment up or down in correspondence to which arrow is pressed. So if the number of players' arrows are pressed, they go up or down by 1. If the starting chip arrows are pressed, they go up or down by 10. If the small blind arrow is pressed, it goes up or down by 2, as you can see. So as we can see, that one passes. So the second test is to check to make sure when changing the values in the settings menu, they cannot be changed to an erroneous amount. So these values are listed below. So blinds can't go below 2, starting chip can't go below 40, players can't go below 2, or the blinds can't go above 20, the starting chip can't go above 400, and the players can't go above 8. So we're going to do that now. So if you see I'm pressing to go down in the number of players does not go down. I'll just show you. So it does go down to 2, but not below. So I'll do this with starting count. It does not go below 40. As you can see, it does not go below 40. So if I go up to 6 and then go back down, it does not go below 2. So now I'm going to test the upper bounds. So the number of players goes to a maximum of 8. So as you can see, it goes up, but not above 8. So then go above 8. And then starting count, chip count goes all the way up to 400. As you can see, it's going up now, but once we get to 400, it will stop because it does not go above. Small blind goes up to 20, so it stops at 20 there. So as you can see, that is a pass. So the third test is to check to make sure that as the blind is changed, the limit changes in relation to it. As the small blind increases by the user, the limits will increase accordingly, so that the big blind is the lower limit and the upper limit is twice the big blind. So this one we'll have to show on the next screen because this is just setting the variables, they're not set yet. So we'll do that on the next screen. Check 4. Check to see if the user can exit the program. So that is done by pressing the exit button on the top right of the page, and that will end the program. So like this. As you can see, that works. So that's a pass. So I'm just going to get that back up so we can continue with the test. Okay. So the fifth test is to check to see if the mouse is over a button that is clickable or it reacts. So when the mouse hovers over a clickable button, it will highlight to make sure you know that it is clickable. So in here, this can be seen when I go over an arrow, it will highlight with a light grey touch, so you know which buttons are clickable and which aren't. So on this page, it's just the arrows and the start button at the bottom. These ones are not clickable, as you can see by them not highlighting. So that one is a pass. So the sixth test is to check to see if the mouse is over a button that is not clickable, it reacts. Check to see that if the mouse is over a button that is not clickable, it doesn't react. So what will happen is when we go over one that isn't clickable, it won't highlight like we saw in the other ones. So the ones that don't highlight should be these, and the number of players, starting chip count, and small blind counts titles. So as you can see, none of these are highlighting. So that test is successful. Test 7 is check to see when the start button is pressed, the game is started. So when the user clicks the start button, the setup menu should disappear and then the next screen should be displayed. So we'll test that now. Just put a third player in. Actually, we'll just run on 2. So as you can see, the setup menu is exited and then it comes to this menu. I'm going to go back to the other menu just to get the other tests done. But as we know, that one is a pass. So test 8 is when the start button is pressed, the data selected by the user input is saved for the upcoming game to be played. So that means when all the data chosen by the user at the start will be put into the game and it will not be changed back to a different value. So if I was to choose 4 players, 60 starting chip count and small blind of 4, as you can see here, there are 4 players. They have a starting chip count of 60 here, and the small blind, which is notified by this token, is 4. The big blind is 8, so that is all correct. So that is a pass. So test 9 is to check that when a user changes a value, that it will be saved to the computer. So as we can see, it is happening here. So it's changing the value, and we can see it changing in the computer by the fact it's displaying a different number here. So this is happening with all of them, and no matter what I press with these, it will change it accordingly and save it so it can be displayed. Okay. So as we can see, that test is successful. So now we've got past that, I'm going to go back to test 3. So we need to make sure that the limits are correct and the blinds. So we can see that blinds are correct by the blind I chose was 4, and the small blind I chose was 4, and that is correct. And the big blind is double that, so that's correct. We can see the limits by the amount this slider goes. So at the lowest limit, it's 4, which is the small blind, which is correct. And all the way at the upper limit, it's 16, which is double the big blind, which is exactly what the upper limit should be. So that is a pass.